Hi everyone, we are from Group 2. Our group consists of Yi Qing, Hong Hao, Brian, Nabil, Sarah, and Aida. Our research topic is Potential Solution in Preserving the Place Identity of Medan Pasar. Medan Pasar, or named as the Market Square, is located at the heart of Kuala Lumpur, surrounded by some integration hub for local life and activity. It is lined with old heritage buildings that built during the late 1800s. Medan Pasar is famous because it is one of the earliest trading places in Malaysia. In 1800, Ya Aloy, the founder of Medan Pasar, established a town administration with the help of local Malays and British. 70 years later, Kuala Lumpur became a bustling tin mine town during the peak of Kapitan Ya Aloy reigns. After the death of Ya Aloy, the marketplace was relocated to the new site. One of the most famous landmarks, the clock tower, was built in 1940. However, the glories of Medan Pasar started to fade, and now the buildings on the site are mostly abandoned and not well maintained. And here are some landmarks that we still can see in Medan Pasar.
Issues and problems. Place identity disappearance in Medan Pasar. Medan Pasar lost its meaning in the context of identity in the recent years. Most of the traditional building is demolished due to emerge of new architecture, style, and social needs. The old business is not able to survive to time and converted into tourism base. Next, foreign immigrants occupy and gather in Medan Pasar. The existence breaks the balance of social composition of the particular area. This situation causes Medan Pasar unable to function as a shared public space. Lastly, the abandoned old buildings that remain suffer from defect problems, be neglected without proper maintenance. The shape and texture start to wear off and lost the original look.
Abstract: the importance of place identity and ways to preserve the historical values of Medan Pasar. It evaluates the changes in Medan Pasar's place identity and examines potential ways to preserve its original identity through literature review, and finally present the issue based on the understanding gained through the case studies to prevent and manage abandoned properties. Other than that, effective spatial planning corresponding to spatial arrangement where building restoration work can precisely reflect the history. Merging traditional trades with new business can keep the business site alive. Institutionalized, including documentation, legal financial support, and community participation to maintain a sense of place identity.
The research methods that we use are website data, case study, and content analysis. The objective of this project are to outline the potential solution in aspects of community, social group, architecture, and business to preserve place identity of Medan Pasar. And here are the conception framework for the project.
Research question 1. How does the abandoned buildings contribute to the disruption of image to the place? First of all, the negligence of appearance. Abandoned buildings refer to a building property that has been unoccupied for some time, at most appearing to be deteriorating on the outside, bringing in negative connotations to the surrounding environment. Hence, this can lead to the rise of homeless encampments. The lack of usage of the building invites the homeless who use it to establish their encampments. This can be seen in Medan Pasar, where the homeless will be sleeping outside abandoned shophouses. This invades the privacy of the surrounding communities. Furthermore, this factor can relate to the issue of crime, as it is only natural for abandoned buildings to generate and draw in crime, as empty properties provide the ideal cover for illegal activities to happen. However, to combat these issues, we can have effective response strategies such as preventing, managing, and reusing the building so it doesn't disrupt the image of the place.
Next is the research question 2. How did the emerging of modern-style buildings affected the place identity? The first one is the refurbished shophouses' licensed ambience. Medan Pasar facade is filled with the essence of neoclassical and Art Deco architecture. It is also surrounded by tall and modern buildings, which makes Medan Pasar shrink. Next is the sense of originality. As globalization has created massive changes around the world, individual cultures has created less of an impression on architecture. Instead, a more contemporary look is the goal in new design across the world, which has caused a uniformity to develop in worldwide architecture. Starting in the 20th century, we see much less variation between the design of buildings across the globe. The new contemporary style isn't held back by location and instead makes its mark in designs of various countries. As a result, buildings are no longer as unique to their individual countries. Next is preserve the history ornaments. Conservative of heritage is important. Every decorative element on the neoclassical facade portrays a work of art. And lastly is the good old days. As an open space to the public, it sees many faces over the years. The idea of simpler times when people weren't so preoccupied with their hectic lives enough to enjoy what's around them. These tables show the relation between identity and architecture. Moving on to research question 3. How did the calamity affect Medan Pasar buildings? Since Kuala Lumpur is a heat island where heat is trapped in the area due to urban activity, the hot and moist air rising can trigger deep convection, resulting in all kinds of shocking weather such as thunderstorms, flash floods, and even hail. On the right is a cutoff of newspaper taken from the Star. First one is flash flood. Due to our climate and poor rainwater system, KL is most likely to experience flash flood during monsoon season. This picture is a view of a masjid damaged during a flood in Kuala Lumpur. Wall moss. Due to excessive moisture, wall moss has developed on buildings in Medan Pasar. This picture shows the facade of old colonial style building in Medan Pasar, which has filled with wall moss. Next is excessive rainwater and heat wave. Buildings can be vulnerable to climate change. In the future, there may be an increase in the risk of collapse, declining health, and significant loss of value as a result of more subsidence damage. Some of the paint on Medan Pasar's wall has started to peel off. And next is the algae production, which also affects by the excessive rainwater, which enter through the building. The algae growth on the wall due to rain is the cause of several health ailments.
Research question 4. How did the decline of traditional trades contribute in the loss of Medan Pasar place identity? The weakening of place identity starts when familiarity, ownership, dependency, and social culture attachment disappears. People and activities that they associate generates a sense of belonging to the people. During 1870 till 1940, Medan Pasar was a place of tin trading center and gambling hub. This too contributes as Medan Pasar place identity. However, around 20th century, all the traditional business are replaced. This results in lost meaning and disrupts emotional attachment to the place. There are 3 reasons of traditional business trade start to decline in Medan Pasar. Firstly, there are more variety of facilities like malls and shops are built. This causes smaller and independent shophouses to slowly disappear. Secondly, since 1885, Old Market Square was relocated nearby Central Market, which leads to a lesser diversity of streets activities happening in Medan Pasar. Finally, the site building condition is not very well taken care of. Not much unique and essential services provided. Immigrants start to take over the business in Medan Pasar, which took away a sense of belonging and attachment to the site.
The research question 5 is how will the effective spatial planning affect the social needs? Mattingly defines the spatial planning as a land use management process and indicates its subject land buildings and physical space. Planning has been a tool to develop and improve city life. The planning concept requires the integration of all groups of society. However, the traditional spatial planning basically concerns only zoning and land. Therefore, the community expectations and needs are ignored, and people are left out from the planning process. It can be said that the traditional spatial planning may cause social exclusion. The concept of integration refers to public participation and social justice. Social justice is based on 3 concepts: equality, diversity, and democracy. And these categories can be performed in the spatial planning process through public participation with private and public planning agencies. Integration of citizens means that not only public participation in the process, but also determining the implementation according to public interest. Then, the most of the group of the society can be benefit from the spatial planning. Next, we will look at the gentrification project of Sulukule in Istanbul. Sulukule is a place that owns unique culture with special environment. This project is aimed to replace the old structures with new ones and renew decayed buildings by governmental planning agencies. Although the project is a positive approach for the city improvement, 2 main problems had not been considered. First of all, the spatial plan is not performed regarding the unique history and environment of Sulukule. As a result, the new houses are not compatible with the culture of the area. Secondly, 80% of the community is tenants and they have become homeless because some of the owners sold their tenant rights to the government. Those who did not sell their houses are not happy with the new regenerated houses because, as they expressed, it did not feel like home since it is not familiar with my culture. For this reason, 50% of the owners sold their houses and left the area. At the end of the project, there's nothing left from the culture of Sulukule. It is essential that the spatial planning process had the ability to listen in order to understand what people want and care about. Research question 6 is how can the adaptive use of the heritage building as museum contribute to preserving the place identity? A heritage building perceived as an old building with high historical value to a community, but not all old buildings can be labeled as a heritage building. Briefly, a heritage building is one that can give a sense of wonder and to know more about the people, culture, and even politics. The first impact is always emotional, for it is a symbol of our cultural identity and continuity is a part of our heritage. As stated in the Bureau Charter, adaptive use is the rehabilitating or renovating heritage building or structures for any uses other than the present use. It involves no changes to the culturally significant fabric, changes that are significantly reversible, or changes with minimal impact. Almost all of the old buildings are deteriorating and need to be restored. Restoring it into a museum is one way to preserve the old building and it can decrease the continuous care of the buildings. It is important to have this concern because without it, the historic building will never preserve or conserve properly.
Research question 7. How will the restoration of the original architectural style contribute to preserving the place identity? Place functions to provide a sense of belonging, construct meaning, foster attachments, and mediate change. Here it derives place identity. And the defects of Medan Pasar heritage buildings are due to degradation with time and additional elements on building. In Malaysia, as stated in the National Heritage Act 2005, restoration means the process of recovering the form and details of a structure by removing the later work and replacing the missing original work. Medan Pasar retained tangible cultural heritage and has its own unique significance, mostly influenced by the colonial architecture. Firstly, through restoration of the original architectural style, heritage culture resources is protected, then social value, beliefs, custom, and tradition are reflected through the design. It deepens the cultural heritage significance in the nation and lastly provide a sense of identity and continuity. The following case studies showcase the examples of our Malay architecture building where the original buildings were abandoned and then through adaptive restoration we bring back the original look of the building and implement a new space program.
Research question number 8. How will the new potential tenants affect the local business? The retail industry has seen tremendous change over the last 4 decades. For example, in Malaysia, before modern shopping centers were built in the 1970s and 1980s, retailing was mainly carried out in shophouses. The initial year of modern shopping saw shopping centers concentrated centrally in the Bukit Bintang areas. However, as people's ways of life have changed with the times, so has the retail landscape in Malaysia. With such ever-changing wants and needs, landlords often have to cater to these changes to ensure the success of their retail malls, while anchor tenants have been perceived for decades as the backbone of shopping centers. There is a recent phenomenon that more landlords are favoring: small retail tenants, otherwise known as micro-mini retail space tenants.
In conclusion, the place identity in Medan Pasar has its own uniqueness in all aspects, such as the architecture, history, culture, and the skill in its build, and emotional value that can be seen through in its society. Efforts in preserving place identity not only focus on the practice of preservation, but it also involves the process of preservation and long-term maintenance so that the unique characteristic of the place will not be lost. Therefore, preservation in Medan Pasar should be institutionalized as part of a strategic urban development plan, including documentation, legal and financial support, and community participation to maintain a sense of place identity.